Hi, I'm Andrew Keoghan and I'm having a cup of tea with Andrew from Cheese on Toast, and we've got some chocolate balls here and some avocado and tomato on cracker. So we've been having a little tea party. Earlier this year I released an album called Arctic Tales Divide, and we recorded it predominantly at the Lab Studio in Mount Eden with Oliver Harmer as the engineer and Wayne Bell was producing.
What's behind the title?
Arctic Tales Divide, the title was actually one of the songs from the album, and it was about an experience I had a couple of years ago where I met a young model, and she was very keen to, I guess, be judged more on her smarts and less on her good looks. And she happened to have a degree in art history, and so we started to somehow talk about the Arctic as well from that, and I just thought it might be the title for the album. I get asked a lot about the use of the violin and why I use the violin so much in the album. It was my great grandfather's violin originally, and I found it in the attic of my grandparents about 15 years ago. But I guess the use of the violin I first heard on Jay-Z's Black album, and thought that's a pretty cool sound. And I played the violin growing up, and then I heard it on a song by Regina Spektor randomly on an ad. I think it's called Fidelity or Infidelity.
Yeah.
I know that there's a huge difference between the two, and heard that and thought that's quite a cool song, and so the plucked violin became a thing where I could use it a little bit more like a synth. I didn't have any keyboards or synths at the studio really on me, so to put it through some pedals and effects became a way that I could get sounds a little bit more like a synthesizer without having to actually buy a nice synthesizer. Most of the songs are from I guess personal encounters. Over the past few years, one of the songs, Gloria, is about an escort that I met near K Road when I was dropping off a CD to a friend. And there's a song called Floors of Canvas, which is sort of about drunkenly dancing at weddings, and I guess in my head I was kind of imagining what it would be like if everyone had paint on their feet and if they were dancing around and kind of making wild sort of art. Yeah. So I've got the chocolate off my face, Andrew. I guess with my background, this was my first album. My mum encouraged myself and my brother and sister to take up classical lessons from a young age, and then when I was about 20 I was in an opera called Turandot by Puccini, and I started singing in jazz bands actually and playing saxophone. And then about 6 or 7 years ago I started writing my own songs, and I've played in a few other bands as well, but this is the first album. So last month I went over to New York and to play in the CMJ Festival, which was a really cool experience. I love New York. My first impression of New York was arriving at JFK Airport, and I naively got into one of those vans with the tinted black windows. It wasn't an official taxi, and everyone had warned me before I went there not to get into one of these vans. So I had a terrifying sort of hour's ride into New York thinking this is where it all ends. It was great, the flight was great, and I'm not going to live through the night. But the guy was fine. He wasn't an official taxi driver, and I think I paid him far too much money, but he safely dropped me off at my destination.
Was that your first time to the States?
It was my second time to the States. I'd been when I was about 15, because my brother used to live in Manhattan, so I went to visit him when I was a teenager. But this was my first real experience, and it's a real kick in the head. New York, it's a big heaving behemoth. If you've been there before you'll know. But it was definitely a city I'd like to go back to, and a country that I'd like to do some more playing in. Yeah.
So you played some shows outside of the CMJ as well, did you?
I played a show in LA on the way through to CMJ, and played a few other shows around CMJ.
Right.
So next week I have a show at Q Theatre, and we're going to be playing quite a few songs from the album, but also some new material. There's a new song that's a duet with Claire from Dear Times Waste.
Oh yeah.
And I'm also doing a duet with Lawrence Arabia, a song from the album called I Have Only Eyes for You. And yeah, I'll be spending the rest of the summer really finishing off the second album and recording it next winter here, probably down at the lab again. And I'd like to get that out either later in the year or in 2013. That sounds like a long way away. So thank you for watching my interview. This is my album that came out earlier this year. And have a Merry Christmas and eat lots of chocolate.